Hi everyone, my name is Hannah. I'm going to be covering the interventions part of the strategic family therapy as described by Haley. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So I'm first covering the techniques, therapy goals of strategic family therapy, and these are just kind of what stands out to the most from this therapeutic modality. And Haley really focused kind of the emphasis of the therapy on behavior. He didn't think that insight was important and really was kind of a behaviorist in his approach, in that he thought that the change in behavior will then affect feelings of the family members inside of the family system. And therefore, the goal of therapy was to shift kind of the family organization so that the presenting concern doesn't serve the family dynamic anymore. And so again, the emphasis kind of on behavior and action. Haley believed that problems occur during the transitions that a family goes from one developmental stage to the next. And the therapy needs to move the family along, because it's when families are in these developmental stages that they kind of get stuck. So I didn't include all of the developmental stages, but I will go ahead and just say them out loud for you all. The first part is the courtship period of the parents or the married couple in the family, and then the early years of marriage, and then childbirth, rearing of children. The fourth is middle years of marriage. The fifth is weaning parents from their children, and then the sixth stage is retirement from old age. And so throughout these developmental stages, Haley believed that problems occur. And so when clients come in for therapy, our goal as therapists should be to prevent some maladaptive sequences and increase the alternatives that the family has. We'll see a little bit what this looks like more closely when we kind of zoom into the Washington School and how this was practiced. I wanted to also note, though, that in the last 20 years or so, Medanes has also adopted a humanistic approach, so less behavioral than Haley, and she has infused the importance of harmony and balance, kind of depending on individual needs. And this kind of is from the Medanes' belief that family members need to be loved and to love, find fulfillment in work, play, and seek joy. So moving on to kind of the role of the therapist, we'll kind of examine how this looks. So Haley thought that the therapist should be a consultant, an expert, and a stage director, and that they should be in charge of the therapeutic kind of dynamics. He really believed in kind of this top-down approach, and therefore there wasn't a therapeutic relationship. This wasn't necessarily the emphasis, and therefore the therapist doesn't need to explain kind of himself or herself to the clients of why they're using the specific techniques and kind of the concepts from this therapy, as mentioned before. Instead, they're interested in kind of the control of power and bringing that more into better balance. Also, the therapist has a responsibility of initiating change in the family organization, not the client. So again, Haley's way was very non-humanistic, I guess, in that he didn't believe that it was an equal partnership with the client. It was more kind of the expert versus the client who is receiving these services from the expert. Again, this meant that the therapist has a responsibility of initiating change in the family organization. And this is done through directives in and outside of therapy. And thus, clear goals are established, a plan is developed, strategies are designed, and there is kind of this systematic way, which makes sense given the name of the family therapy modality, which is strategic. Again, another side note, and that Medanes included a humanistic part of this through altruism, the importance of altruism. The techniques of the therapist include joining. We saw a little bit of this from the Minuchin family, but again, this is used to kind of integrate the therapist or the therapists into the family dynamic and system. And this is used to help the family feel comfortable and the therapists really stay neutral. Also, something that's familiar from the Minuchin theory that we just learned about is reframing. And reframing for strategic family therapy is similar, but again, it's meant to serve as a reinterpretation of problematic behaviors and contexts. And its aims are to change the perceptions and interpretations used by family to maintain a homeostasis. So Haley believed that families are resistant to change, and it's the responsibility of the therapist to bring about that change. And through reframing, the therapist should be able to assign positive connotations to the presenting problems and family interaction, and highlight some positive intentions, which are probably kind of missing from a family dynamic when they're coming in for therapy. One thing that is really unique about strategic family therapy are directives, and directives are used to create kind of experimentation with new behaviors and processes that are suggested by the therapist. This will undermine and reverse dysfunctional patterns for the family and provide suggestions to really address specific needs. So directives can actually be direct or indirect, depending on kind of how they're used. And direct is, pretty self-explanatory. But indirect is restraining the members of the family from kind of changing, and therefore using maybe a little bit of reverse psychology, and that if you advise a client to stay the same, then they'll still be in distress, and this causes a paradox and it causes frustration, which then might move the client again towards change. A really interesting concept that is, again, unique to strategic family therapy is paradoxical interventions. And the most common is kind of prescribing the symptom of the presenting concern, and then again, restraining change or even amplifying the difficulties. Because Haley believed that families seek help and resist it at the same time because of their desire for homeostasis, Haley believed that you kind of want to take this non-conventional approach. And so if the family doesn't take the directive that is paradoxical, or they do, they end up benefiting either way. So specific things that I wanted to highlight, because strategic family therapy went into a couple of branches. So there's like the MRI model, which is the Mental Research Institute, and then the Milan model, and then the Washington School. And Haley was most affiliated with the Washington School, so I'm kind of going to be zooming in on this school of thought for you all. So Haley and Medanes, again, their views are that the symptoms of the presenting concern for the family is a form of kind of communication, a lack of communication that is not working anymore, but still aimed at gaining control over other family members. That's kind of like why they believe that families are coming in even for services. So the family hierarchy is really important. They were also the creators of ordeal therapy, which provides ritual challenges designed to be more difficult than the family problem. And so through working through this challenge, they encourage the family to bond and have new problem-solving skills. Again, Medane specifically, she used different techniques than that of Haley, such as humor, fantasy, and playfulness. So again, introducing this humanistic aspect to strategic family therapy. I also wanted to highlight the 10 steps that Haley used and how he conceptualized strategic family therapy, especially because he really believed in this like paradoxical approach. And so when the sessions start, he believed that the line of kind of your actions as a therapist should be as such. So the first one is to, again, establish a relationship with the family. This is done through joining. Define the problems of why the family is coming for therapy in the first place. Set some therapeutic goals that are clear, well outlined, and then offer a plan. And so the following kind of points for the steps, follow along with this plan. And again, using kind of putting down the current authority of just what isn't working anymore. And then this needs to be done kind of in a graceful way. Again, give a paradoxical directive so that the family, even though they want to stay in homeostasis and possibly, keep current power dynamics the way that it is, that there is motivation for change. And then observe and respond observe the response of the family, and then continue kind of with encouragement of usual behavior. And if and when the change continues, the therapist should avoid taking credit for it. And they begin to kind of disengage and disconnect with the family, and just really kind of watch and support the process as change stabilizes, and then the therapy will terminate. The nature of strategic family therapy is that it's supposed to be pretty short, and sessions aren't supposed to go for very long. And that is it.